Hello, hello. I think we're live. So yeah, hey, hello everyone. My name is Matt Desmond. I go by BeardofEDU at GitHub. And today I'm introducing a new segment that we call 30 Minutes to Merge, which is based on questions that we find in our GitHub community forum. And today I am super pleased to introduce Alex, who's an implementation engineer on the professional services team. She's going to be walking us through some GitHub Flow or branching strategies using GitHub Flow and Git Flow. Just a quick intro on Alex. She has 7 animals. She's got 3 cats and 4 dogs. Her current favorite is Simon the cat, but we're not going to let the rest of the boot magnets know who's the favorite. Her recent purchase on Amazon is a purple and green pair of ASICS running shoes. She'd like to be more involved in open source projects, and if she's also looking for a project to start working on. So if you have any open source projects that need a little bit of help, feel free to drop those in the Twitch chat. And then I like to ask people what their ideal GitHub action would be, and hers would be to troll her teenage daughter on social media to do their chores. So with that, thank you very much for joining us, Alex, and let's rock and roll.
All right. Thank you for that great introduction. Might have been one of the best introductions I've had. All right. So just sharing the screen here. All right. Looking good. So I'm coming from Raleigh, North Carolina today to talk about branching strategies. It's a concept that's near and dear to many people's hearts. And so the things we're going to cover today is what is a branch? What are branching strategies? Why are they even important? And then we're going to cover two of the popular branch strategies, the GitHub Flow and then the Git Flow as well. We'll also speak a little bit about best practices and such too. So the first thing I want to jump into is what is a branch? A branch under the hood is just a lightweight movable pointer that points to a specific commit. Or another way you could think of it is just sort of like an isolated sandbox that it's not going to affect any other branch on your repository. It's just that one specific area in time. So you can think about it like that. So what is a branching strategy? When you start making branches, you start getting a little bit of wackiness everywhere, like wackiness running all around. And so you want a convention or some type of naming practice to take care of that. And so that's when branching strategies come in. So think of it as a set of rules or a convention or named guidelines about how branches are going to be used and how they should be interacted with. One thing is to keep in mind is that there are a lot of branching strategies out there and some hybrids of ones as well. It's important that you choose what's going to work for your team. Oftentimes when you come in, it might be best to start out somewhere simple, maybe with the Git Flow, and begin to add things as your team needs it or as your automations need it. And then moving forward in that way, instead of just going and finding some branching strategy and then trying to make it fit your situation or your situation fit it. Instead, start small and create the branching strategy that works for you and your team. Another thing to keep in mind is making sure that everybody is on board with it too. That's the best way to make sure it all works out is if everybody's on board. So the first one I want to talk about is the GitHub Flow. So the GitHub Flow is sort of a lightweight branch-based workflow, and it supports teams and projects where deployments are regularly made and fast. Some things you can keep in mind about the GitHub Flow: it's simple and easy. It kind of is fast and you can deploy early and often. Works well in CI/CD strategies. It's good for continuous release. One thing that where it might not be so strong is it doesn't support multiple versions. So if you have to support multiple versions of a code base, that might be a little bit of a struggle there. So let's dip in real quick and talk about what the GitHub Flow is and how it begins. So the GitHub Flow, you're going to start out by creating a branch off of your main project. And then after you create that branch, you're going to go in and make some changes to that branch. So you're going to add some things, remove some things, and begin making changes for whatever feature you might need. And then the next step's going to be is to create that pull request. Sometimes you can even create draft pull requests early and get a good conversation going about the changes you're wanting to make to the code. So the next step there would be to just open that pull request, start collaborating with your colleagues there. So opening that pull request facilitates more conversation and a review on that code. So you can discuss those changes, maybe improve upon them, add new changes, but get everything ready to go and get that final review out of the way. So after that final review is out of the way, we can go ahead and deploy. We can go ahead and go through any processes you need for deployment at that point. The code is ready to go. And then the final step in a GitHub Flow is going to be that merge back in. So no matter what branching strategy you subscribe to, you're still sort of following that branching off and then coming back into that single main line here, the single don't break production main line. So it's good to keep that in mind as well. So that is just sort of a quick GitHub Flow. We'll talk about the Git Flow next. So the Git Flow is a little bit heavier. It assigns specific roles to specific branches, and you have longer lived branches that you're working with, and defines how and when we should interact with them. And so what that's going to look like, it's a little bit bigger of a beast to manage, and it works really well in a slow development cycle or a development flow. It's better suited for longer cycles as well, maybe where you have a code freeze and send everything off to QA, something like that. I've worked in those situations as well. But when you need to maintain multiple versions of code, this is a good way to go about it. It is a more methodical process, and it's considered a little bit heavier, heavyweight, or it's a little bit more overhead, and you have to make sure that everybody's involved and understands the process. So you can see where this might be a little bit harder for newer developers to come into. But what's going on here is we have some short-lived feature branches, and that are these blue dots right here, and we have the develop branch, which is a longer lived branch. We have release branch, and we have main branch as well. So the main branch is where we're going to be cutting our releases off of. In a situation like this, the developers would come and they would pull from the develop branch, open it up there, and then add their commits for their feature branches. And those feature branches would merge back into develop, where develop moves to release. Maybe there's some testing there. It goes to QA. And then from there, we go up into main, or we cut our release, so that version 1 release. And that's sort of a flow of how you would use these longer running branches. So after that, let's see what this looks like in action. We have a repository set up, and that is this 30 minutes to merge repository. And what I'm going to do with this repository is I'm going to go ahead and fork that down to my personal GitHub here. All right, now we can get working here. So in this 30 minutes to merge repository, and this is something that you can fork as well, we have instructions here on how to follow each flow, and that's what we're going to get ready to step through now. So let's see. The first thing we want to do is do some initial repo setup. The thing we want to do is turn on GitHub Pages so we can host this game. It is a Tetris game. I hope you like Tetris. And in order to do that, we need to turn on GitHub Pages. So let me go ahead up here into the settings. Going down here to GitHub Pages, and make sure we serve that out of our main or our production branch here. Okay, and then we want to serve out a root. Good, we're going to save that. All right, looks like we can save. Let's go right down. I'm going to grab this URL. So this is the URL my index HTML is going to be served out of. So I'm going to grab that. And we'll continue on to the next portion. So moving on to the next portion, we see that we need to enable GitHub Actions. All right, so coming in here to enable GitHub Actions, we do have an action called Release Drafter that we're going to demo it, use in this demo. And let's see here. Said got a little bit of a, how are we working there? Is that good? Zoom in a bit. There we go. And just go ahead and enable those actions. So Release Drafter is what we'll be using today. And Release Drafter is going to collect all the commits that were made. And then when the pull request happens, we'll have a draft of a release ready. I know Matt really really enjoys Release Drafter there. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to step through the GitHub Flow. So the first thing we have is we need to go ahead and create a branch, right? We need to make that, that sandbox so we can fix the README. So what our issue here is, and funny that I use the word issue, is we actually would start from an issue in this repository. Maybe somebody reported a bug that our README doesn't contain the proper link. And where that is right here. This link you can play the game at. If you were to click that, that is not going to work. That link we got when we turned on GitHub Pages will be the one that we'll want to replace this with. So in order to do that here, we have this handy dandy little edit pencil. I'm going to go ahead and hit that. And from there, I can go ahead and edit this URL and change that to the proper one that we're actually hosting our game from. All right. So now, whoops, and action, yep. Let me back up a second. First thing we need to do is create that branch. Getting ahead of myself. I get too excited about these things. So the first thing is to go ahead and create that branch. So we're going to call it update readme. And from there, I'm just going to click this create branch portion right here. This is what's going to create our branch. All right, now I'm in the right spot to do some editing. So now I'm going to come back down into that readme and then go ahead and hit that pencil for the edit and find that one line again here. Again, it's going to be line 5. We're going to change that line and fix that up. All right, looks good, looks good. I'm not going to change anything else here. I'm going to go ahead and scroll on down. I'm just going to say that I added the correct URL. All right. So I notice here I can add any other extended descriptions if I wanted to get a little bit more verbose. I absolutely could and save that off. I'm going to commit directly to my update README branch. So that is the branch that I made, that safe sandbox, and then commit changes. All right, so we see that we're in the update README branch. That looks good. And we see that we have changed the URL here. Awesome. All right, let's just scroll on down here. So we created the branch, we edited the README, fixed the URL. Our next step is to make our merge back into main. So we're going to request that our code gets pulled back into main. So I'm going to come in, create this pull request by clicking this pull request, and GitHub's really helpful here, and it's allowing us to go ahead and click this create or compare and pull request. So one thing to keep in mind here is that we want to switch this to actually be in our repository. So we're not making a pull request to the forked repository. I'm doing it within my local here. So I definitely want to hit that drop down and make sure that works out okay. All right, we see that main. I'm requesting this little arrow was really helpful saying update README into main, able to merge. Everything looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and keep that message the same there. And at this point, if I wanted to add a reviewer, I absolutely could. I could add the wonderful Beard of EDU. as my reviewer. It's not showing up. We'll move on. All right, so we're going to just create this as a pull request. And from here, we have created our very first pull request to pull in our change. We can take a look and see what we're moving in here. So we see that we have pulled out the GitHub school and my personal account has been named. So that's great. Go ahead and head back to the pull request here. Everything looks good. Let's go ahead and merge that pull request in. So here, if we wanted to have more of a conversation, we absolutely could by using this comment box down here. Just going to go ahead and confirm that merge. All right. And one thing to keep in mind is stale branches, these feature branches, they aren't long-lived. So we need to go ahead and clean up after ourselves and get rid of those branches. We don't want them hanging out unnecessarily. So let's go ahead and delete that branch, clean it up. All right. Coming back to our main branch now, we know because we're clicking on main, scroll on down, check out our README here. It does, in fact, have the change I made from my last branch in it. And that is it. That completes the GitHub flow. It's just that branching, creating a pull request to merge back in, and that's it. So easy. The next thing we want to look at is going to be the Git Flow. So we've created some branches. When you forked the repository, you may have already seen them, that we have developed working. We also have a couple example branches. So if you don't want to follow along here with the changes we're getting ready to make for the example branches, you can easily just merge those in. So down here. All right. So for the hands-on activity portion here, we're going to create a feature branch called feature change speed. So we're going to go ahead and branch off of that. And feature dash is just sort of a naming convention we're using for this repository. So anything that's going to be a feature will have feature dash in front of it. And the first thing we want to do is change speed. All right. So now we have our awesome feature branch. So the first thing we want to do is make a change to this game here, and that's going to be in this index.html file. And we'll scroll on down to making sure we're still in that feature branch. Scroll on down to about line 78. That's where the speed controls are, and we can go ahead and switch it up here. We're going to hit that awesome edit pencil. Scroll on down to about line 78. There we go. Let's bump these up a bit. And that is it for our change. So I'm going to go ahead and save that or commit that. So I'm going to say change speed of the day. All right. From here, we'll just commit changes. We'll go ahead and click back to the code, and we'll see that we have this compare and pull request ready for us. So we can go ahead and create that pull request. Again, pay attention to where we're merging to. Okay, so if we just make sure that we are point both those to our local repository, that we're making a pull request into our own repository, change speed of the game, we can go ahead and create a pull request there. All right. So we'll let that hang out and marinate a bit while we come down and look at, let's see here, the next feature branch we want to do is change color. So change color is going to be line 116 to 132. So we need to go ahead and create a new branch. All right, feature change color, and create that branch. And from there, we'll go ahead back into that index HTML, edit. And we're going to go find about line 116. We can go ahead and start changing some of these colors. I don't know, Beard, what's your favorite color? All right. All right. Let's go ahead and throw pink on there. All right, so after you've made the changes to your colors, we're going to go ahead and commit and save that off as well. All right. Just say change colors of Tetris blocks. All right. Again, we're just committing directly to that feature branch. All right. So from there, let's go ahead and take a peek here. So from there, what we want to do is actually we want to create a pull request into develop. Now, I know you saw in the beginning here when we did this pull request here, we were asking to merge into main, right? Well, one cool thing you can do when you make a mistake like this, it's no problem at all to just go ahead and close that pull request, and you don't even have to continue to use it. So maybe that's not the right, maybe someone just made a mistake and tried to merge to the wrong branch. Well, as long as that pull request is still open, we can just close it without doing anything. And then what we can do is we can go back to pull requests, and then we can open a new pull request from there. So all we have to do then is go to this new pull request, and let's take a look. So we definitely want to pay attention to where we're going. We don't want to go into GitHub School. I want to go to my personal one here. And I want to merge into develop. So I'm going to go ahead and select develop as my first drop down. Then the next one I'm going to select is going to be that feature branch I created. So the first one I want to merge in is going to be that change speed. So I'm saying I want to take feature, change speed to develop. It's ready to go to our long-lived develop branch where maybe my QA team is going to give it a test there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and create the pull request. Change speed of the game. Everything looks good there. Let's go ahead and create that pull request. All right. So that's ready to be reviewed. Someone can take a look at it, maybe write some comments. What a great idea. And a conversation can happen through that pull request and be tracked. So that will also be part of history as well. So let's go ahead and take a moment, go back to pull requests. We also need to merge our feature of change color into develop. So make sure that we are in mine here. All right, so since we're merging into develop first, we're sending it off to our QA team. We want to merge the feature, change color, into develop. That looks good there. We're going to leave that, create that pull request. And now we have two pull requests created to go into develop. So that is part of the Git Flow there. And let's go ahead and approve those merges into develop. All right, and again, we want to keep it clean, delete that branch. And don't worry, if you're worried about deleting branches, you can always restore them later. The next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and go into the feature change color. And we are going to merge that into develop as well. Awesome work. Looks good. Keep it clean, delete that branch. And then we're going to come back to the code tab. So we see that GitHub's trying to help us along, being like, oh, I've detected some pushes here. You want to create a pull request? Not yet. Let's just go ahead, peek around into develop. And we see that if we scroll around in our index.html, we can actually see that the merge request, merge pull request is there in the history. And we can actually see that line 78, we do have our changes. So that worked out perfectly. The next step of the Git flow is we're ready to go to production. QA team has come back, says develop branch is great. There are no bugs, no mistakes. Imagine that. And then we are going to go compare pull request into main. Now this is where you could set up some branch protections around main to enforce that a review is done. You could do all sorts of other great things with branch protection here, but we're not worrying with that today. So we want to go into main from develop. So develop's now going to go into main. We could be a little bit more specific. We could say merge develop into main, or whatever you want to do for your message there. So then we're going to go ahead and create that pull request. Awesome, we're ready to go. We are so close to getting to production now. We can see all the changes here that we've made in this pull request. So even though these changes existed in different branches, we can still see when they were merged in and still clock those changes, right? And then also the merge commits that were made for that as well. All right, so everything looks good. Everything was perfect. Moving on, merge that pull request. So confirm merge. Beautiful. All right. So I'm going to let, since develop's a long-running branch, I'm going to let that one stay a little bit. And then we're going to see that all of our changes now live in main. Everything looks good here. So we see in our history, everything's there. Now we've made it all the way through. The next thing I want to show is that release drafter action. So when we turned on actions earlier, we went ahead and had this action running in the background called release drafter. And what it did is it went ahead and drafted all of our changes. So we see that where we added the correct URL for the game, we can see the change that was made where we changed the speed of the game and the feature, and then went ahead and merged. So we can see all these pull requests and what they changed within the draft. If we wanted to edit and create, add some more information about what's changed, we absolutely can do that and cut the release there. So that's one really great thing about that action release drafter. So that's a pretty great one for use there. So with that, I'd like to take a moment to talk about some of the best practices when it comes to branching strategies. And one of the things you really have to do is make sure you have everybody on board. It is really tough to implement some type of strategy where not everybody's on board, or branches are just coming out of every direction and you're trying to rein that in. So setting that precedent at first and then getting everybody on board is a really great start there. And again, starting small with something like the Git Flow and then building out things as you need them is probably the best way to go about enacting a branch strategy there. So with those best practices, and again, cleaning up your branches as you're creating them, especially those short-lived ones, feature branches, not letting them hang out because you don't need them for any long. They don't need them around mucking up the place. Go ahead and cleaning those up as you go is a really great practice to get in the habit of and cleaning that up. And then, of course, in the Git Flow, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and pull all those changes that got pushed into production back into develop, and then continue on with your practice there. So those are definitely some things to keep in mind there. So with that, I guess we can open up for any questions. All right. So some of the things that I've seen all sorts of with branching strategies is sort of hybrids of ones, where you take maybe a little bit of the Git Flow and a little bit of the GitHub Flow and mix them together by using those feature branches. Hey, there's Beard. What's up, man?
I'm out of the backstage purgatory. It's great. So you asked me earlier what my favorite color is. I prefer a green. Sorry about that.
I threw that one in there though. I'm glad I somehow knew.
And then, yeah, so I just wanted to say first and foremost, thank you very much for all your help today. It's been a great demo of like the 2 different workflows that we covered today. And then also to chat, there were some helpful links that were thrown out. That Envy link for the Git Flow is a good read. It both talks about the GitHub Flow as probably a solution for a lot of flows, but then it also dives deeper into like the GitHub or the Git Flow. So thanks for sharing that earlier. And then just kind of wrap up some things. We also are going to be having a Q&A session going on in the community page, which I think has been linked a couple of times. There it goes. So if you do have questions, feel free to jump in there. Just a reminder, this entire session was brought to you by questions that were asked in that community forum. So keep asking your GitHub related or Git related questions there, and you might see your question turn into a quick 30-minute segment with another implementation engineer that I can rope into a session like this. Outside of that, there's also going to be some swag giveaways I hear, so get yourself some GitHub swag. Maybe they're throwing out hoodies. I don't know. I don't know what they're giving away, but I would hope for a hoodie myself. Maybe some stickers at the least. Outside of that, I don't think I have anything else to kind of point you in that direction for. But yeah. Thanks so much for joining us today, and have a great one. And thank you very much, Alex, for all your help.